Hey, welcome back to Chris with Chris's Comments, a show of common sense on common ground, and it's common sense that I want to talk on this particular episode. It's about the rideshare apps, in particularly gig working jobs. Now on my podcast, the audio only podcast on anchor.fm/Chris-comments, all lowercase letters. When you go onto Spotify, you're going to get it through Spotify, Anchor Podcast, Chris's Comments. What you're going to hear is a lot of stuff concerning a lot of common sense. Because although the article talks about a lot of points concerning the difference between the employee and employer relation and how it pertains in business and all this good stuff, there's a problem with it, and it's universal all around. It's minimum wage. Okay? Two words that this particular commenter does not like. And the reason why I say this is because I've already worked minimal wage jobs. I have no intention of going back to minimum wage jobs because of the simple fact that it just serves no purpose to work a minimum wage job. The rideshare drivers that are complaining about zero minimum wage, for some reason they're thinking that they can earn like a percentage worker, because that's really what I'm working for, is a percentage, a non-set percentage, because not all orders are the same. Excuse me, sorry. Not all orders are the same. You know, some rides are going to be shorter than others. There go, some rides are going to pay less than others. And here's the thing, the people that are striving for a minimum wage, at least a base pay or whatever they want to call it, you know, they're thinking that if there's a minimum wage into our job, that the companies give us a minimum wage, that we're not going to be able to earn the percentages that we're also going to keep, rather, the percentages that we earn on the road, which anybody that's ever worked minimum wage jobs knows that that's just not the case. Technically, a minimum wage job is an hourly wage job. And an hourly wage job is involves a private sector rules and runnings of the businesses that requires criteria, standards, and results that can be more harmful than it cannot. Here's another example. Here's an example. Somebody working in fast food who works at minimum wage, who doesn't have any orders to tend to, has to occupy his or herself picking up a broom and mopping, or picking up a broom and sweeping and mopping, or wiping down tables, or, you know, glass cleaning, you know, the restaurant windows, cleaning out the cooking equipment, you know, cleaning off, removing grease and such. Some kind of maintenance thing or upkeep, you know, which is obviously something that we can do out here on the road, that I can do as a rideshare driver on the road, but it's best to do it on my off time. I can't exactly do an oil change, accept a request and say, okay, hold on, I'm at this place where they're changing my oil out, I'll be there as soon as I can. No, I can't do that. And I can't tell the people that are changing my oil, hey, hurry up, I got a request. You know, that's not the way it works. You know, standards and you know, stuff, the criteria is just not going to work with this kind of gig app job. And I sound like I'm, you know, jumping from one section to another. I really am. The 2-part episodes concerning this subject on my audio only podcast, I'm diving way deeper into it because the article that I got the information from goes all over the place, but it covers a lot of stuff that makes gig workers look like victims and gig employers look like serious, bad, corrupt, disgusting people and stuff, you know. And I wish I could get into it deeply on my YouTube podcast. Unfortunately, YouTube doesn't really have me doing very long hours. I've got like about 40 minutes or something like that, and that's about it. And it's fine. It's fine. This is just to dumb down everything that I did, and the reason why I'm pausing and trying to reorganize what's going on in my head is because, you know, everything that I already said was yesterday in a 2-part episode, you know, where I covered just about everything that went on with that article, which covers the problems of the subject. And I'm over here dumbing it down and really trying to just get to the gist of it on the YouTube version. The gist of it is that here's the long and the short of it, that the people complaining really don't know what they're in for when they complain about wanting a minimum wage job, and to be not to be contracted, but to be actual employees. There's a study coming out of Dallas, a report coming out of Dallas that says there's plenty of gig apps where drivers are employees, and they've got the benefits, they've got a minimum wage base on top of whatever it is that they're earning, and they've got benefits and health care and stock options. There's tons of them and tons of them. Okay, sorry, it's just hot down here in Texas. Okay, first off, no, there's not tons of them. There's about 4 of them. Second off, they're still small and minor by comparison to Uber and Lyft. So of course, small based companies will give this sort of great deal, but it's just a matter of time until they become this big corporation that they start doing the same thing. They start copycatting and doing the playbooks off of Lyft and Uber, the two that are actually holding out throughout the past decade, that, you know, and staying strong and maintaining. Every business that starts off with being this big giver. It isn't until they become corporations that rules change on everybody. Uber and Lyft was originally like that as well. But of course, as time went, they started to become more and more corporate, so therefore they had to throw all these regulations. One of the regulations that they did not throw out, however, was making us from earning our own percentages to working at a minimum wage, which again is just this awful thing. As a person that's been on minimum wage, I can tell you, it's not fun. You're living paycheck to paycheck. This job requires you to have money on hand like that sometimes. You can't live paycheck. You can't wait sometimes for the end of the week or the end of next week to get to a repair that needs to be done now. You know, that's just plain and simple. Ask anybody that's owned a business, they can tell you that. You know, they can tell you that. You can't keep up on this stuff. There are times where I would have had to have dropped out and found another job if I hadn't been able to keep working to later on fix the problem with the car that I had at the time. Sorry, again, it's just hot down here. So to hear these people saying, well, we need a minimum wage. No, we don't. A lot of them still think, you know, I have conversations with them, and it's like, well, no, you'll still be able to make money that you're making and all this other stuff. That's not how minimum wage jobs work. Also, you'll still be able to cash out whenever you want to, maybe, but usually whenever it comes to minimum wage jobs, no, that's not how it works. You might be able to cash out your tips, your gratuities, if you even get a gratuity. You know, some of these people don't tip. You know, it's not like restaurant work, where the majority gets tipped and the occasional douchebag doesn't. This job, you know, it's honestly, after hearing out the people that have been talking about this, it's very obvious they don't know what they're in for. They've never worked minimum wage jobs before. They don't know what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck. They don't understand that the benefits and all this good stuff, you know, those are still technically options, and that it's not voting, it's not picketing and petitioning against the company. It's going after those that make the law. It's going after policymakers and lawyers and all them and politicians that bow down to these companies. It's making them stop with the deregulation, and having them regulate is what makes you get the benefits and the thing. Because every time a politician just deregulates everything, out goes the budgeting for the Medicaid, for the Medicare, and the medical and the benefits. It's not the companies. The companies will do it. Don't get me wrong. They're responsible for it, yeah, but they're permitted by law to do that, as opposed to when like somebody like Obama was around, who threw out, you have to pay for it, especially if you have 300 or more employees. Now, I understand. I remember those. I remember when that happened, because I was working at a manufacturing assembly job when that rule came out, and I saw a lot of people no longer being hired, and I saw them relying on more temps, and I saw the business corporations that was working along with them, which were entirely different companies, just sharing the same warehouse space. I saw two businesses move out, and not, you know, and move out and you know, go somewhere else. Why, I'm not really sure, because I don't think they had anywhere near the amount of employees that the company that I was working for did. But, you know, what are you going to do? But yeah, the minimum wage jobs and the benefits and all that, you know, you're going after a corporation, which as soon as somebody like the next Donald Trump comes into play and deregulates everything, can throw out all of your demands that they met after you sued them, you know, and get away with it by law. It's not the benefits and stuff, you know, the lack of benefits and all this crap from the business. And don't get me wrong, the businesses are the ones that are not providing and stuff, but it's because they're permitted to. You know, to go after them and demonize the company is one portion of getting things the right way, but it's not the sole mission. And that's what I see out of these people that want the minimum wage and these retirements and all that stuff and everything. They're valid points. Yeah, they're good requests, especially the retirement savings. I wouldn't mind a portion of my check automatically going to a retirement, despite the fact that that's still technically my responsibility. Also, there's one more, but I forgot what it was. It's not medical. I forgot what it's called, but it's something to do with tenor, work tenor. There's a benefit to that. Also paid leave, I think it was paid leave or sick leave. That would be nice. That would be nice. It's something that it's a responsibility that's also our own as a contractor that we have to do. But it'd be nice to do that with you know, seeing as how we're developing a good. I've been with this relation with rideshare for 5 years now, and I wouldn't mind seeing something like that. You know, I'm sick. Hey, take the day off. We got you covered. You know, I wouldn't mind seeing that. But you know, that's just me. That's just me. I think that's a nice point. But this whole bizwax where it's, you know, we're underpaid and we're this and all that and we need minimum wage. No, absolutely not. The underpaid thing I get also, because when I first, that's something that I've been hearing about since I first started in June of 2017. I would take rideshare requesters who used to work for rideshare. I'm not going to mention the names because it turns out it's both Uber and Lyft. And they said things were much better. They would chew me out. Things were better before I came. You know, I'm accepting the bullshit pay. I'm accepting the BS pay and for miles and minutes and stuff. And they got a point. When they started, they were getting paid like $2 a mile and $1.50 per minute. You know, when I started, it had already dropped down to 78 cents a mile, and I think it was 53 cents per minute, which I didn't really have a problem with, because I wasn't a part of this deduction until about a year and a half after I had started in 2018, when it dropped considerably down to now what is now 62 cents per mile and 12 cents per minute. It dropped a little. It wasn't that fast. It wasn't that big. I think it dropped down from 78 to 68, or 72 to 68, and then 53 to 35, and then it dropped down to what is now 62 cents a mile and 12 cents a minute, which sucked big time. It sucked like nobody's belief, like nothing. You know, so I understand the anger and the upset and all this good stuff. But I had to roll with the punches. I had to roll with it because I had fallen in love with this job. And I thought this is really what I want to do for my last 20. I'm 49. By the time I reach 65, retirement age is going to be moved up to 69. So technically, I'm on my last 20. Well, not technically, but, you know, routinely, traditionally, I'm on my last 20 before I can hit retirement age and actually retire and blah, 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 and all this good stuff. I'm not really sure if that's going to be able to be possible, because I'm looking at senior citizens working right now as inflations and prices and all this stuff goes up and everything. Who knows? The thing is that I really wanted to stay. I really want to stay with this job for a good while. I want to put 20 years into it, and I want to retire happy. But it's tough. It's tough because the prices just kept dropping and dropping and dropping, and every boost that they supposedly did so far is technically just a promotional X amount of money for X amount of rides, so to say. Currently there's, you know, $2 or $1.30 all the way up to $6 if you get if you get some rides for every ride that's done within this certain amount of time period. Now, it used to be for every 2 hours you'd get X amount of dollars put onto every order that you made. So if you were making $4 for every ride, and you made a $4 ride, which was from one end of the neighborhood to the other, to be honest, you would get the extra $4 onto it. So that $4 fare turned into $8, which was just incredibly wonderful. $10, $14, you know, you got yourself a $30 fare, $34, cool, you know, a $26, $30, surprise, you know, it was great. It was great. But now it's just like $2.50 within this 1 hour, you know. So even that is sort of depleted. There's also this one that's virtually, it's horrible. I don't like it. The current one right now is you'll get $90 for 45 rides, which is possible. It'll take the whole day, but in this day and age, it burns up so much gas, especially for those of us that are like myself, who looks at profits and spending. There's times where I'm only working 5 hours, and it's because I've had some real good long distance rides that added up, and a couple of short ones that rounded at everything up to a real good money criteria, which would be like $150 to $200, which is what I shoot for every day. If there's times like that, and there's times where I have to actually put it to one side. I have to put the job to one side because I'm just watching that. I'm watching that gas needle just go from F to E real quick, and I have to use my better judgment on this, depending on what time of day or what time of night that I'm working, that I got to say, okay, if I stop right now and get back to work another 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours from now, where the rush is going to come, or at least where the city comes back to life and everybody's moving again, because it could be the morning rush hour, it could be the evening rush hour, it could be after, it could be post game, post play, post music concert, where I'm taking everybody home, and you can actually make some good coin, just taking everybody home after a performance or a show or sporting event. You can actually make some good money just off of those few hours, those small 3 to 5 hours that you're taking everybody home. And it's a really good way to go. But here's the thing. When you're learning this kind of stuff, that's really the saving grace to helping you maintain a living, is knowing how your city lives and breathes. When you're having to do it through something like a minimum wage, there's a criteria to where you're no longer given the option of doing 40 rides, for $90. You're just assigned 40 rides, and that's it. You're getting paid minimum wage. You're probably keeping your tips, but you're getting paid minimum wage, and that in turn can be a little bit more harmful than how it is when you're using your better judgment working on this, okay? Using your better judgment based off of how your city lives and breathes. And in that is a problem. You're not going to be able to make that kind of money. And that's the thing that I'm talking about, where these protesters, these petitioners, these guys with lawyers that are trying to sue the gig economy companies, in this case, in my case, the rideshare gig economies, this is where they just don't see the harm that they're actually doing. A lot of these guys are also, retired military, retired such and such, retired guys that used to make big money, 6-figure incomes and all this other crap. And a lot of other, not all of them are like that. There are some people that are poor. There are some single moms, some families that are some dads that are trying to make that extra money for the child support and all that. That's there also. But I'm talking about those that did, 15 to 20 to 30 years in a profession, who are accustomed to seeing an hourly wage, who are accustomed to seeing benefits and taxes being taken out for unemployment and all this good stuff, and in that is where I'm also saying that they're wrong in doing this. These people are trying to go back to familiarity, as far as I'm concerned. They're ruining this really good gig economy, the economy in the gig world, and by trying to make it something where it is a foundation with a time clock that you punch in or swipe your ID card on, or have an access code. They're pushing a certain button, ID number. The people, they're used to that. They're used to a sign-in. They're used to a supervision, which if you have a minimum wage job, There's going to be a supervisor. There's going to be somebody that's going to be looking over your shoulder, and that's going to be a problem. You know, especially, it's also difficult because we're all over the place. This state, I'm in Texas, and I'm permitted to drive all over the place, all over Texas. I can get a ride from here to Houston, and I can work in Houston for a good while instead of having to drive all the way back, wondering, God, how am I supposed to meet this money criteria, the money quota that I set for myself? How am I supposed to make $150 to $200 by the end of this day when it took a 2.5 to 3 hour drive out there, 2.5 to 3 hours back here? You know, it's stressful. One thing that's not stressful is making sure that I could actually keep working even if I'm in Houston. You know, that's an advantage of having a contract position in this gig, particularly this gig business. And you can't have that when you're under a minimum wage, because you have that also involves territories and routes, like the taxi companies. A lot of them are sitting in a headquarters. They're getting their cars all ready to go and all this stuff. And they're given a route, a place to work, a certain particular place to work, and then afterwards they have to go right back to it. That's what's going on with the gig economy over in Manhattan Island. You know, if you happen to have a ride share drive that takes you out of Manhattan, you have to immediately go right back to it in order to work, in order to keep working. Those that are outside of Manhattan Island, they can't go on to Manhattan Island and work. If they get a ride share that gets them onto the island, they have to immediately leave. That's a problem. That's a problem with the restrictions that come with minimum wage work. It's nothing like what's going on right now, where we're free to move around anywhere. I'm free to actually have a break to voice my opinion, have my voice heard over the internet on my lunch break. Actually, this isn't even my lunch break. It's my coffee break. I've moved my lunch breaks over to actually more closer to midday. Despite the fact that I'm starting my day at 4 o'clock in the morning every morning. And then I'm on my, by, 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock, I'm in need of my second cup of coffee, which is what I got here. I'm going to cover the logo. I'm in need of my second cup of coffee, which is what I got. But I can't do that on a minimum wage job unless it's assigned, which would be that 15-minute break, which I don't like anymore. I can't stand having to clock off, walk all the way to someplace, or drive over to someplace just to get a cup of coffee and come back and make sure that I clock back on the 15-minute mark. You know, I am done with that. Like I said, I've been a minimum wage worker before, and I will not go back to that. And which is another thing that you got to realize. You know, you can't have the breaks that you want. You can't have the breaks that you need. There were times where my back was killing me from sitting down for so long. I was pushing myself a lot. I was doing 16-hour work days at the time. So I would get out and walk the pain off. I do laps around a shopping mall or walk in a park, but it was mostly a mall because it's hot down here and the air conditioning is very appreciative. But nevertheless, you can't do that when you're an hourly wage worker. You can't tend to yourself. You can't tend to your jobs. You can't tend to your chores. You can't tend to your doctor's appointments. You can't tend to any other family emergencies. I've had family members stranded out here, so I turned off the app, drove to where my family member's car broke down, picked them up, took them home, and it was usually one of the women in my family that married the guy that does the work, that does the automotive work. She likes to stay at home. He's the cowboy. Where have all the cowboys gone? Well, a couple of family members actually married him, and he's the one that tends to the car. So I picked her up. I took her to her house, and later on her husband went over there to work on it. And if that hadn't If I wasn't on this job, I wouldn't have been be able there for her. Okay, for my family member, my blood family, or even a friend of the family for that matter. You know, some people in this day and age, especially where everything is so overpopulated, people can get scared. You know, people can make the wrong decision out of fear. Maybe I should keep going and try to push the car further, you know, making it worse on themselves. You know, it's something just to throw out there. The convenience of being a contract worker in a gig business, and it's not just rideshare. It's anybody working from home that has to do clerical stuff. It's anybody that's doing whatever else the gig economy is, also dispatch or something like that. I can't remember. My mind just went blank. But there's a lot of advantages to this. And to hear these people complain about not having a minimum wage job, you know, not having this as a minimum wage work or an hourly wage job with the benefits and the medical and all this other stuff that's supposed to go with it. I get it. But most of these people, you know, they either left minimum wage work to do this, or they're retired people who's used to an hourly wage, whatever career that they just retired from, and want this because they think that that's the only way to go. That's the familiarity or something. And in my opinion, that's what it is. It's just familiarity. It's having to have a time clock to punch on. It's having to have a super look over your shoulder. You know, that's not what they're looking at, but that's what it entails. You know, it's having to see a not so big check reduced down to bullcrap pay because portions of it is going to retirement and medical and sick leave and all this good stuff, which again, I don't mind the idea of sick leave. I think that's pretty cool, especially after doing, you know, 5 years straight. I've done, you know, I'm already getting closer to 12,000 ride requests, you know, and you know, and that's me limiting myself using weights and balances. Sometimes that gas needle has gone to the half a tank and I've only gotten like 3 rides. So I have to call it a day. I have to be smart about it, you know. And then there's times when I'm doing 19 rides, you know, and it's taken a full, you know, 14 hours. I have to refill on my gas, but I've made the money for that gas to put in. To refill, you know, and I'm banking and I'm banking and I'm banking, you know, some days are better than others. And I'm thinking that that's another reason why a lot of these people, they just don't know what they're talking about when they say we need a minimum wage. It's not that. I just really don't think that they understand that this is a roller coaster job, especially when it comes to payouts. You're not going to get a great payout every day. You're not going to get. There's times where you're going to have to call it in because of how dismal and dead it is out here. You know, there's times you're going to have to call it in today. I once had, and granted it was during the pandemic, but nevertheless, I once had to call it a day after 8 hours and I only came up with $26. Okay. Now again, it was during the pandemic, but that's beside the point. I put myself out here. I sat here in this very same area, this bus stop transit center that's underneath this highway. That's what you're looking at back there in the background. I have sat here stressed out of my damn mind a couple of times, you know, wondering where the hell is everybody? Why did I get any requests? You know, I've been there. You know, and I can honestly tell you that also is this job. Okay, that's also what comes with the gig work. You know, especially if you're doing it off of percentage payouts. You know, payouts based off of percentage per order. Salespeople, people that do the cruise line appointments and tickets to trains and airports, airplane rides. You know, everybody that gets paid a percentage out of every order goes through that. There's no escaping that. As sure as it's, as sure as it's an independent business, as sure as you're an independent contractor. And it doesn't just stop in the gig economy. It's also the food business. There's dry spells left and right, even in fast food joints. As much as we hate them, there's dry spells. The only reason why it's okay to demand a minimum wage out of a McDonald's is because McDonald's is $1 billion a year business where everybody eats. Despite the fact that we all know, like McDonald's, the most unhealthiest ever, but nevertheless has tons and tons of people every day. This gig economy is $1 billion a year business, true, but not everybody needs the ride, so the chances of profiting big and stuff like that for an independent worker is nowhere near, independent contractor is nowhere near guaranteed as the independent franchise owner at the end of this block. Okay, it's nowhere near the same. They can afford to put them a minimum wage job. Plus, when the orders are not coming in, there's a super there to make sure that they're still earning the money, the minimum wage that the super and the manager and the business owner is providing for that worker. Okay, so if there's no orders, we'll pick up a broom, pick up a mop, sweep, clean out, pick up a cleaner, clean off your grill, clean off your grill, change out the oil in the fryer. There's plenty of things to do in a franchise or a business that's in a foundation, that's on a foundation in a building. There's plenty of things for them to do for the business manager to look at them and say, okay, you've earned minimum wage. Yeah, you're earning that minimal that I'm $15 an hour, Here in the gig world, here in the rideshare app in particular, I could, but again, I can't exactly tell the requester once I get one, okay, stop, okay, just wait there because I'm in the middle of a tune-up. I can't accept them and then call them and say while I'm vacuuming out my car, all right, just hang on, I'm almost done detailing my vacuuming, cleaning out my car. No, I can't do that. You can't do that. You can't tell them to wait. Some have, but I got a funny feeling they're not working this job anymore. But that's another story. That's an entirely different story altogether. So, bottom line, the people that are requesting minimum wage jobs and all this, minimum wage wages and rights and all this good stuff, they don't really know what they're talking about. Even the ones that have been there. The one article that I read from is a guy that's been here, that's been doing it in Southern California since 2017. And he says, oh, I'm underpaid, I'm underprivileged, I'm underappreciated, and all this other crap. We need minimum wage. Okay, that guy seriously does not know what he's talking about. And the guys here in Dallas, Texas, that say, well, there's these people and those people, they're doing minimum wage. Yeah, but it wasn't until that article that I even found out who the hell they were. I don't even remember their names now. They're so minute, they're so minor right now. They're doing a minimum wage and they're getting everybody and they're doing this and that and all this other stuff and medical leave and everything. Yeah, most small-time businesses can offer that, They'll offer that, and that's great, good for them. So my question is, if you're so upset with the current rideshare, well, why not just go to them? See how long that lasts. I'll bet you your job, I'll place a wager that you never come back, that you actually are going to try to come back. Because of the BS that's going to be going along with the minimum wage work, even through this gig economy. I'll bet you that I'll bet you exilement. I'll bet you whatever, that you're going to come right back to this job and try to get back, and the complaining and the bitching is going to be coming all over again. And if I sound exhausted, it's because I am. This is the stuff that I've been hearing since 2017, June of 2017, when I started. When I started, there was a gas shortage from overseas. The ships came to the California coast, but they would not dock and they would not unload the oil because they went to strike. And gasoline was getting dried out in gas stations because the trucks just weren't making it from there to the refineries to our gas stations. So every morning, my very first month in June of 2017, every morning I had to wake up early, get at least 45 minutes before the gas station opened. When it opened, because there was already a line, and when it opened, that's when I'd go in, fill up, and I had to make use of that one full tank of gas, and try to make some kind of what constitutes a decent amount of money in order to make enough every day to try to make the rent and the bills. Okay, that's how harsh it started out, how challenging it started out my very first month doing this job. Okay, so for people to say, oh well, gas inflation and gas prices and all this stuff and everything, yeah, they got a point, but it's still just a challenge. It's still just a challenge for us rideshare drivers to meet. And every single one of these people that have been claiming to have been doing this since 2016, 2017, I've been doing it for 5-6 years now. I've been doing it for 8 years now, and all this other crap. They should know better. They should know better. And yes, this is me shaking a finger at them and shaming them. They should know better. They should know better that this job comes with a lot of challenges to meet, a lot of difficult obstacles and stuff, and to be demanding some kind of minimum wage, whatever the hell, that still shows that no matter how long you've been here, you still don't know what you're talking about. Shame on you. Shame on every single one of them that wants this. Again, there's some points where I see as pretty neat. Sick leave. I've gotten COVID 3 times already. I'll have to check. I've got the medical card. How many times I went to go get my shot. I think it was 3 times. Once in December 2019, 2022, March, and then 2022 in May. Yeah, 3 times. You know, to have that paid sick leave would have been freaking awesome, because the first time I was out for about 2.5 to 3 weeks back in December 2019. And that was before the vaccine. So I had to constantly go to the grocery store to pick up these medicines. And then I would go to the medical emergency care, where I would, every time I got the symptoms of the allergy problems, I'd tell them, it's an infection, I need some antibiotics. And I would take these brand new antibiotics. I even mixed it in with a couple of expired antibiotics. But you know what? What can you do? I didn't know how to get rid of this. I didn't know what it was at the time. I didn't know COVID was this very serious virus. And at the time, there was no vaccine. So, you know, I would switch every time I'd get that flu feeling. I take the flu medicine. I get the cold and fever. I take the cold and fever every time. Every time I recovered from that, I'd get the allergies and the allergy infections. Every time I'd hit the allergies and infections, I'd start getting a bronchial problem. I mean, and it just flip-flopped around from one illness to another, which, you know, led to me, hey, this is something pretty serious. And then, of course, COVID-19 was revealed and all this good stuff. And it was just toughing it out all the way till I got the vaccination in 2020. I think it was 21, March of 2021. But yeah, I mean, it was a trip. It was a trip because March of 2020, because I went a full year without having to worry about it up until 2022. But yeah, the fact of the matter is, sick leave would be fantastic. So they got a point. But this whole bizwax of having to do everything and run it as if we're a McDonald's is just downright idiotic. You know, shame on them. Shame on them for thinking this crap. That we can, because we work we pick up people at hotels, that we should be employees no differently than the people that work at the hotels. You know, that's just dumb. For the record, I've also been that also, and I thought that's just very frustrating work. Everybody's a prima donna in the hotels. Everybody's just a prima donna. And I really don't want to work. I really don't want to work that crap ever again. Whether you're a guest or an employee, it's too much BS drama. Like kitchen work, like that Hell's Kitchen stuff. That Hell's Kitchen where whatchamacallit is just making a mess of things, yelling at people and all this crap. You know, that's a bunch of BS. And it should be, it really needs to stop. But that's an entirely different subject. This job is nothing like that. It's getting people, taking them from point A to point B, and that's it. It's a gig economy, and we make our own money, and we budget the best way that we can through all this roller coaster rides and times that are thrown on us, be it because of the politicians who deregulate everything, all the way to natural disasters. February of 21 was that snowstorm that came all the way down here to San Antonio and shut us down for 4 days. Cutting off our heat and our electricity, freezing and backflowing the sewage. One of the first posts that I gave when I first started this was the testimony of it. So back in January of 21, no, back in January of 22, I think. No, March. I'm sorry, March of 21. That's when I first started doing this, giving my testimony as to what's going on this side of the world, on this side of the U.S., you know, while everybody's going over to, you know, L.A. where the wildfires are, or everybody's going over to D.C. where, you know, all the protesters are. You got all this going on and that going on, and nobody's really looking over here, you know, and which is really weird why nobody wants to do what's going on in your part of town. You know, I have no earthly idea what's going on in you know, Ohio or Louisiana. You know, I have no clue. All I know is if there's ever an incident, the rhetoric people are on their side saying it's the Antichrist, and the liberals are going on with saying it's the Nazisms. You know, it's those darn Nazis. You know, so I don't know. I don't know. I only know what's going on around whenever some kind of incident goes on. You know, to hear your voice is, you know, would be a treat. It would be a nice treat. So, yeah, this whole thing about trying to transform this gig work into an ordinary job is just dumb. I don't like it. I disapprove of it, and I hope that you know, I hope I'm not shattering anybody's bubble about me, anybody's concept about me in saying it. But yeah, it's a trip. I understand how Governor Gavin Newsom is trying to turn gig workers into employees, because it means corporations in the gig world have to then pay for new employees. They have to pay for people that have made progress and worked tenure. I understand all that. All that involves them paying taxes to the state, to the federal government in turn, while they make the mega millions, the billions every year. I get it. I get it. The problem is what Governor Gavin Newsom of California is doing is not right, and it's just a little bit off target when doing it concerning app workers, gig workers that work out of an app. This is an entirely different beast. You know, if you're going to do that, I mean, what's the difference between that and somebody that does the you know, you're going to be taxing this means the guy that sells the bicycle with the corn on the bicycle, elotes, you know, or the raspa seller, the snow cone truck, you know, whoever's operating that ice cream truck can't be an independent business owner. He has to be owned by a company who makes him the employee. And that's just downright wrong. You know, it's dumb. You can't do that to people like that. You can't do that to people like that. You really shouldn't be doing that to people like us. I don't want to belong to an employer that has to have a manager looking over my shoulder. And I certainly don't want to go back to a minimum wage job. Hell no. So that's my spiel. I hope y'all are taking care of yourselves and doing good. And I guess I must have got myself a lot of extra data because I'm now going past the 51-minute mark there. So, wow, that's pretty good. So, y'all take care. Y'all take it easy. This is Chris with Chris's Comments, signing out.